Today on the Playbook Podcast, Trump is in Japan and meets with the Japanese Prime Minister last night. She was laying the compliment on thick. It is day 28 of the government shutdown. Are the Democrats now facing some problems? And there's a week to go until Election Day. We'll give you a good idea of where things stand. Hello, I'm Jack Blanchard.
And I'm Dasha Burns. It is Tuesday, October 28th.
And this is the Playbook Podcast. How are you, Dasha? Nice to see you back.
Thank you. Good to see you. I am just thinking, if it's Tuesday, got a week till elections. So, the Tuesday brain chemistry is always political.
I'm already looking forward to it. I've got my coffee machine ready. I feel like election night, if you're a political journalist, this is kind of what you're in the game for, right?
Even off your elections, we get hype.
You bet. Now, before we get into the topics today, two big things were due to happen in the early hours of this morning. We're recording this in the dead of night, but they haven't happened yet. But Donald Trump was due to speak on a U.S. Aircraft carrier at very, very, very early hours of this morning. And that horrific looking storm was about to hit Jamaica, we think. So both of those things were due to happen. You may be waking up to them. We've got more details of them in the Playbook newsletter, which should be in your inboxes now. We're not going to talk about them on the podcast, but what we did see, Dasha, late last night was Donald Trump coming face to face for the first time with the new Prime Minister of Japan in Tokyo.
The first female Prime Minister of Japan, which the president did note in his greeting with her.
He did note that. He didn't say, I hope America is next, did he? I didn't hear that phrase coming from him. He did not go that far. And funny thing is, he was listing them on Air Force One on the way to Japan. There was this amazing interaction with one of the pool reporters who was asking him, are you going to run again in 2028? And which, of course, would appear to be unconstitutional. But nevertheless, Trump is playing around with the idea. And he continued to play around with the idea. And we don't really know if he's just enjoying winding up his opponents or whether he's really trying to figure out a way of doing this.
Maybe a little bit of both.
A little bit of both. He thinks it's fun. But what actually more interesting than that, I thought, was that he suddenly really went there on his successor, Dasha, and had a, just really, in the way that Trump does, just starts telling you what's in his mind on this, and really explored the idea of a Marco Rubio candidacy, a JD Vance candidacy, or indeed a combination of the two, which he described as unstoppable. And it feels like in his mind, it's kind of a two-horse race, or at least that's how he's framing it at the moment. That's pretty interesting, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is something that has been very, very, very much under the surface because nobody wants to talk about it too openly, because nobody wants to sort of stoke the idea that Trump might not be the guy in the Oval Office forever. But yeah, no, it's Vance and Rubio, and I think most people are assuming it'll be a dual ticket with Vance at the top. But of course, Rubio is always there in case Vance screws up over the course of the next, year or so. Vance is there in the wings, but he might have to take number 2 slot if JD is indeed the MAGA heir apparent.
I was just thinking about it, having watched Trump talk about it and thinking about the journey Marco Rubio's been on, which of course is a pretty amazing one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like from the days of little Marco and all that. But even just this year, when he was nominated for Secretary of State, the sort of received wisdom in DC was that he was going to be this like powerless weakling figure who was sort of going to get trampled over.
And that MAGA was going to reject him, that MAGA world, that the base was going to hate him.
Exactly. How long is he going to last for? He's clearly not the right kind of guy. And within a matter of weeks, that narrative completely flipped. Trump was making clear how much he rates him, how much he likes him. And now he's talking about him in equal terms as his potential successor. That's quite a shift.
And now, by the way, he's also having real impact on policy. I mean, you see that with the posture in Latin America. You see that with the change in posture on Russia, Ukraine. I mean, his fingerprints are all over the foreign policy of this administration in a way that I think, some months ago would have surprised folks. But he has not only ingratiated himself to the MAGA base and to the president himself, but is now someone who is clearly very trusted and very influential when it comes to the actions that this White House takes.
And keep scooping up new jobs, right? I mean, that NSA appointment was supposed to be a temporary thing. Well, nobody's talking about a new NSA anytime soon, are they?
I scooped this, and what I said in that reporting was he's acting. Sorry.
Is it the football or the baseball?
Dodgers.
It's the baseball. Of course it is. Of course it is. I don't know if you could hear the cheering in the background when Dash was speaking then, but that was very clearly some excited sports fans in the next room.
My in-laws are visiting, and they are both the loudest sports fans you have ever heard. So I'm actually surprised.
But they're not. But they weren't watching the Washington Commanders play playing the NFL, right? They're watching the World Series.
They're
right?
Dodgers fans,
people.
very hardcore. My husband's wearing like Shohei Ohtani gear head to toe right now. It's a little embarrassing. But
Which is the most beautiful segue into our next item, which is Donald Trump meeting with the Prime Minister of Japan last night. And just to add that their meeting, or at least they're sitting down in front of the press, was delayed because they too wanted to watch some World Series. Because
Shohei Ohtani hit a home run while they were meeting.
I know it.
You can't write this stuff.
It's a beautiful thing. And he's such a massive figure in Japan, of course, you can imagine, best player in the world, right? So everyone's watching the game. And she actually delayed the whole bilateral meeting. They had Rubio there. They had everyone else all waiting while they just, wanted to watch half an hour of the game or whatever they did.
It is a huge deal. And it's kind of amazing that this is all colliding.
When I was watching them sit down, Takaichi, the new Japanese prime minister, who's literally been in the job for about 2 weeks or something, and Trump, what was fascinating to me, Dasha, we only got to watch a few minutes at the top of the meeting before the press get thrown out and they get down to the real business. But nevertheless, there's basically a playbook now for how you deal with Donald Trump, right? World leaders, I don't know if they have a
group chat,
a group chat that doesn't have Trump in, where they all swap tips or whatever. But basically, everyone does the same thing, and it now works pretty much every time. Like this kind of, and it's not that hard either.
Yeah.
Like when someone first did sort of dealt with Trump well, and he started praising them, everyone was like, "Oh, this guy." I can't remember who it would have been, but this guy is like a Trump whisperer, so amazing. Now it's
it might have been like Starmer or
Starmer did a great job in February, didn't he? And also Rutte, the head of NATO, managed to hit it off. But actually, it's not that hard.
It's pretty straightforward. A lot of compliments. Definitely nominating him for the Nobel Prize.
Yeah, compliments, Nobel Prize, talking about a golden age of something or other. He likes to hear that. A good gift of some description. She was giving him, she was giving him, shouldn't say that. She was giving America and DC specifically a gift of 250 extra cherry trees for the anniversary next year, which is lovely.
Which is lovely.
DC is full of cherry blossom, as we know. And now there's going to be even more. But again, this is the right way to play Donald Trump. They all know how to do it, and he just laps it up, right? Baseball and politics happening in real time in Dasha's head. But you know what I mean? I sort of feel like diplomacy should be more complicated than it is with Donald Trump. And actually, it's not that hard.
No, it's not. I mean, when it gets harder is behind closed doors, right? When you get into the nitty gritty, but it certainly makes that portion easier if at the outset, in front of all of the cameras and during the ceremonial portion of the meeting, you kind of follow the paint by numbers of how to win over Donald Trump.
Yeah, and he said wonderfully, he basically said to her, anything you need, anytime Japan needs a favor, we're your strongest allies, which is, of course, really important for a leader to hear, but especially in the context of a newly aggressive-looking China, looking to be more hegemonistic in the region. That's a really important message for Japan to hear, which brings us neatly on to Thursday, when a far more complex diplomatic moment is coming. Trump's first meeting with Xi in whatever it's been, more than 6 years. Xi, not an easy man to deal with, and that will be a much more complicated diplomatic moment for Donald Trump, especially in the context of how aggressive Trump has been economically towards China through the course of the whole year.
And it's such a major policy platform of this administration. It's something that he campaigned on. I mean, he's been saying China, dozens of times in his speeches since he first came down that golden escalator. And it's something that his Republican allies on the Hill feel really strongly about. I mean, this is in a time when what is the fundamental sort of Republican platform is a little bit murky, it's mostly like what Trump says it is. When it comes to China, that is like one of the areas where there's a ton of interest, investment, and some ideological cohesion from people all across the Republican and conservative spectrum.
Let's talk about stuff closer to home. It is day 28 of the government shutdown, and I don't think too many people were expecting that we would get this far when it first happened on the 1st of October. Now feels like it might go on. Well, I don't even want to speculate how long it might go on for, but we did get a bit of a shift yesterday, Dasha, with a major union coming out and putting pressure on the Democrats, who, of course, they have their ear, or lots of these people, to sort of say, you've made your point and now it's time to reopen the government. Do you think this might
Yeah.
be a moment that starts to shift the dial a little bit?
It's a big deal because this is a union that has been largely an ally of the Democrats, and to have them put pressure on is going to have an impact. Senator Dick Durbin came out on the record saying so, and that is going to be compounded by the effects of November 1st, which we keep talking about. I mean, all of this stuff is kind of coming in this like looming massive storm, and it looks like some Democrats are concerned. Honestly, Republicans are also concerned. I think everyone's waiting to see kind of how, when the rubber meets the road here, how people in their districts, how their constituents are going to feel this, and who they're going to call to say what gives.
Yeah, I mean, I have definitely spoken to some Democratic politicians, Democratic advisors who feel like after November the 1st, like the open enrollment is on, like letters have gone out, and like, okay, like we've kind of made the point. They now own this. Like they could have changed it. We could try to put the pressure on them to change it. They haven't. And like we've done it now. But that's far from a unanimous position within the party. I mean, it means just as many people like, no, we're in this for the long
Right,
haul.
although they don't need that many more, right? So, like, if enough
Hmm.
Democrats feel that pressure, that could certainly change
People
things. I
start
mean,
to peel off in the votes, essentially. Yeah.
right, and again, like, the narrative piece of it, I mean, we reported last night, Politico, our colleagues on the Hill, that, Democratic attorneys general and, governors are gonna sue today, over, the Trump administration deciding to not tap into emergency funds for SNAP. Um, that gives them another sort of, we are, taking on this administration in every way that we can, but maybe it's time to get these things funded, and federal workers back on the payroll.
We are also now 1 week out from the elections, as we were saying at the start of the podcast, and not just the big elections in New Jersey and in Virginia, and of course the various mayoral ones, but also that all important vote in California on redistricting.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting story that our colleagues over in California are reporting this morning, Dasha, that essentially all the Republican money that was flooding into that contest to try and convince people to vote against Governor Gavin Newsom's redistricting plan has essentially stopped. And that is a clear sign of a party going, we're going to lose. Although in public, Republicans are like, we're in it to win it. Like, we can beat this, we can stop this. The fact that they're turning the taps off in terms of funding with like a week to go suggests that they think that would just be like pouring money down the drain at this point, and they're going to refocus efforts elsewhere. And that's a pretty good sign for Gavin Newsom and the Democrats that they are going to get this thing through. And what seemed when he launched it as a pretty extraordinary gambit, given how complicated it is to redraw the map with the laws in California, it looks like he's going to get this thing done.
It's so interesting when I talk to people on both sides of the aisle about gerrymandering, because basically everyone agrees that it's a bad thing for democracy to be doing it, but everyone also says, but if they're going to do it, then like we need to do it. And
Totally.
so we're in this perpetual cycle of redistricting as revenge for redistricting, even though everyone's like, yeah, this is bad. Um, and yet here we are. So, yeah, it is remarkable to see, though, a state as large, both in terms of land mass and population size as California, take this on in this way. But it looks like it's going to happen.
We're in a world where we have a president in particular who is prepared to push the boundaries of what is possible, right? You've seen it in so many different policy areas. Like, am I allowed to do this? If I really like things that people never thought were possible for president, I'm going to try this. Am I allowed to do it? Can I get away with it? And if he can, then I think in the president's mind, you're a sucker for not doing it. Like, that's how he thinks about things. Like, he's, and so I guess the fact that you can redistrict the way that you want to, you'd be a sucker not to do it in Trump's mind. And so once you're in that world, then this sort of tit for tat thing kind of has to happen, or else one side is just going to, get a major advantage over the other. And that's not how competitions tend to
gloves are
work.
off all around.
The gloves are off. Before we go, let's talk about a subject briefly that's close to your heart and mine, Dasha, which is political podcast.
Oh.
Well, you've got two. Come on,
boy.
At least this is my only podcast hobby. You're
and
still
actually,
at it
technically, Ceasefire on C-SPAN also has a podcast version.
Oh my goodness! You're the first person in DC with a triple podcast. My goodness, extraordinary. There was a wonderful piece, or I slightly felt sorry for the journalist, but there was a fun piece to read in the Washington Post about someone who'd listened to all or many major political podcasts.
That is a hardship assignment.
And not just ones like this where you get the fun of me and Dasha talking to you in the morning about what's about to happen, but actually this was focused on potential candidates for the 2028 election, many of whom now have their own podcast, and having to sit down and listen to each one and see what you thought. Now that sounds like a bleak way to spend many hours of your life, but fair play to the Washington Post.
Thank you for doing that work, man.
But more amazing to me than the actual fact that they did it, but also some of their sort of verdicts on the different podcasts is some of the numbers. Some of them are absolutely jaw-dropping. Gavin Newsom, we talked about him, gets an average, according to the Washington Post, 1.6 million people watching or listening to his podcast every month. Ted Cruz, remember him? 1.8 million people.
Ted Cruz topping Gavin Newsom.
I believe it.
Did not have on my bingo card that Ted Cruz would be a podcasting maven, but here we are.
There you go. By contrast, Donald Trump Jr., son of the president, huge figure in MAGA world, it says here 17,000. Andy Bashir, governor seen as maybe the great future hope of the Democrat Party, 8,000. These are not even in the same ballpark as Cruz and Newsom. So there are podcast stars and there are podcast minnows even in DC.
It's fast. I mean, I do think podcasting data is coming from TV where there are Nielsen ratings and we lived and died by those, right? Podcasting data is so much more murky and weird and
Good point. And who knows? So
and
we're just reading this out of the Washington Post.
Like the clips of us discussing these topics might go hugely viral, and that's not counted in. We go. Jack, you and I go viral all the time. Okay.
Thank goodness I never go on the internet. That sounds horrific. Anyway, that's enough from us. Thank you for being here, Dasha. Thanks everyone for listening. That's all we got time for today. We've got loads more news and analysis in today's Playbook newsletter, including the coverage of what should be a big speech by Donald Trump, and of course that awful storm happening in the Caribbean. You can find all that at politico.com/playbook, and we will be back tomorrow.
Thank you, everybody.